Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Wrap, brought to you by Michigan Medicine Headlines. I'm Dan Ellman with the Department of Communication.
And I'm Jeremy Fallis, also with the Department of Communication. Today, we're going to jump on I-94 for a quick trip to Chelsea and learn about the brand new expanded inpatient rehabilitation unit at Chelsea Hospital.
Now, before we get into that, you could stay right where you are and get caught up on any episode of The Wrap you may have missed. You can find the shows on your favorite podcast hosting platform, Michigan Medicine Headlines, and the One Michigan Medicine Home Hub. It's also available on the Michigan Medicine YouTube channel.
And with that, let's bring in an incredible team who will be able to share insight into the world-class rehab unit and why it's such a boon for patients and families. Can each of our guests first introduce themselves and tell our listeners what it is that you do?
Sure. My name is Rafina Khatib, and I am a hospitalist, an adult hospitalist here at University of Michigan Health. I also practice at Chelsea Hospital. And I have an administrative role, being the Associate Chief Clinical Officer for Trinity Affiliates. And what that means is I collaborate, oversee, and coordinate all the wonderful collaborations that we have with Trinity Health.
All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Ben Miles. I have the privilege of serving as the president at Chelsea Hospital. Been here for about 2.5 years and have thoroughly enjoyed my interactions with both Dr. Khatib, Dr. Claflin, the team at Michigan, Trinity, and some of the independent docs here locally. So wonderful to join you today.
And my name's Ted Claflin. I'm an associate professor in the Department of Physical Medicine and Rehabilitation at University of Michigan. I work at the University of Michigan Hospital doing consultations, and then I also work on the inpatient rehabilitation unit at Chelsea. And I have an administrative role working in network development and trying to make sure that we're providing great service to all the patients who come.
Outstanding. Well, thank all three of you for being here and for taking some time out today to talk about this. Now, as we mentioned about this new and renovated and expanded inpatient rehab unit at Chelsea, you recently had a grand opening for the unit. Now, although it's brand new, the team as a unit has been working together for a really long time. How long has sort of this unit been a vision of yours and the planning, how long was the planning that went into it before the grand opening actually became a reality?
Well, this is Ted, and I can speak from the standpoint of the Physical Medicine and Rehabilitation Department. PM&R has been hoping to have more space and more access for treating more patients for decades. And, there's a lot of competition at University of Michigan for, space. So when the opportunity arose to move our program to Chelsea Hospital, we jumped at that, which happened to align pretty closely with the pandemic. And I think that it's fair to say that that's been going quite well. And so we've been working with Mr. Miles and the whole rehabilitation team over there very closely over the last few years, and really in a dedicated way working on this over the last kind of 12 to 18 months. It's really been incredible to partner with the whole Chelsea team.
Yeah, if I could add on to what Ted had to share here, Chelsea Hospital has been providing inpatient PM&R services and for a lengthy period of time. But I think really for the past 6 years and change that we've been a part of the joint venture, I would say that's when this program has really come together. And the collaboration, I think, is what has really been the fuel to help bring this together. We've accomplished the consolidation and the move really in stages. And I think most of that was just recently completed within the past month. But I think that this is something that has really been an evolution over the course of the past several years. And I think were it not for this very collaborative spirit that we've shared with one another, something this complex could have been very complicated. But I'll echo what Dr. Claflin had to say. I think we're off to a terrific start. And what's been so rewarding to see here is that this isn't just going to provide the space for the clinical setting, but we're excited to see the academic and the research components of this program continue to grow and flourish as well.
Thank you for that background. And let's continue down that kind of track, because I think a lot of our listeners might not understand how this all comes together. And, some of our patients might understand, but many of our employees definitely don't, that this unit and Chelsea Hospital are part of a joint venture. So Rafina, how does it really work? How do two different health systems come together as one team to support a patient?
Yeah, sure. It's unique. So you're not going to find a whole lot of hospitals in the country that are joint ventures. But back in 2018, the two award-winning health systems decided to enter into this partnership. The idea is that both organizations share a common goal to improve the health and well-being of people in the community. For Michigan, too, it was a strategy to improve access to surgical care, inpatient care, and now inpatient rehab, and allows us to share knowledge, resources, best practices, and drives innovation. The way it works is that University of Michigan holds 49% interest in Chelsea Hospital. Trinity holds the majority, which is 51%. The Trinity system has an extensive experience in operating community hospitals around the country, and they are the managing partner for Chelsea. That means Trinity employs the staff and manages the day-to-day operations. University of Michigan providers practice at Chelsea and share all those best practices that I mentioned, increasing the ability to care for complexity at Chelsea. For example, we are now caring for stable transplant LVAD patients with the rehab expansion. We do share a governance structure. So on the fiduciary board, there is equal representation from both health systems, and we take turns chairing the board. I have a question for you, Jeremy. Do you know what year University of Michigan providers started practicing at Chelsea Hospital?
That's a loaded question, Rafina. I personally, I've only started working here in 2017, so I'm assuming it's before then.
Yes, it was. It was in 1978. So it was prior to the joint venture that University of Michigan Health has been a partner at Chelsea, and that was the family medicine residency clinic and inpatient service that continues to be a legacy on the Chelsea campus.
That's awesome. I love to hear it, and I love how, you have this collaboration and you have this work that's taking place in Chelsea, and it just continues to grow and expand and change, as times change to meet the needs of patients both in Ann Arbor and in Chelsea as you move a little bit west. Now, I'd like to turn a little bit more toward Ted, your specialty, which is PM&R, physical medicine and rehabilitation. I'm not sure a lot of our listeners, it's a very unique specialty. I'm not sure a lot of them know exactly what it is you do. So can you talk about the type of patients that PM&R specialists work with, what type of services PM&R offers both at Chelsea and perhaps elsewhere at U of M Health?
Sure thing, and it's a pleasure. I think there's a lot of mystery around what we do, and I think part of it is just that it's not as easy to explain to people exactly what a specialty is if we don't have kind of a specific organ system, right? If you can say, like, I am the spleen doctor, then people know exactly well, not that anybody knows what the spleen does, but you know what I mean. So I think the idea that we try to promote is that we're doctors of function and we're doctors of quality of life. There's a couple different ways that, that has manifested in terms of the way that we provide care to patients. But a lot of times when I'm summarizing this for people, just as a little bit of brief background, we often talk about our field sort of growing out of World War II. There's all these people who are coming back from the war with these really debilitating injuries and a need for doctors who specialize in caring for people with chronic disability and issues with, moving around, issues with taking care of themselves. And so if you think about somebody with an amputation or an burns, multiple trauma, then you can kind of start to get the idea of, these are the people we're trying to take care of. Now, that sort of morphed into taking care of people who have just had significant neurological injuries like strokes or spinal cord injuries, paralysis. And so we both see those patients in consultation at the university hospital to try to help manage those issues as well as we can and come up with good rehabilitation plans. We then, for the patients who are good candidates for inpatient rehab, those are the folks who are going to inpatient rehabilitation unit, either at Chelsea or outside of the health system. And then we're seeing those patients again long term after they're discharged. We're following up with those people to continue to try to manage the issues that resulted from whatever that big injury was. So we take care of a lot of folks. Like I said, I've mentioned some of our big populations already. Spinal cord injury, stroke is really my specialization, traumatic brain injury, burns, but really any disease process that can cause significant functional change. So if a person, I should say, is, living and working and, serving as a husband, father, all the kind of things that people do, then has some big thing happen to them, then we're in charge of trying to help them get back to doing as much of that for themselves as they can, and then optimizing quality of life to the best of our ability. That in more recent kind of decades has morphed into, you've got all these doctors who really understand how people move and how to be independent. And so a big chunk of physical medicine and rehabilitation now is patients who have neck and back pain. Big chunk of what we do in the outpatient environment is sports medicine and spine medicine. So I think almost half of our department is providers who are taking care of patients who have neck pain, back pain, and sports medicine kind of injuries. So we take care of quite a number of different groups of patients. And I think that that's really part of why it's not exactly as clear as some other things like, for example, cardiology or something.
Yeah, if I may chime in with sort of a personal example. So I was born with spina bifida. I use a manual wheelchair for mobility. And in recent years, I was referred to PM&R. And it really, like what you said, is a lot of it's quality of life, right? Is my wheelchair doing for me what I need it to do, to give me the freedom and the flexibility that I need to live my life? I had back pain, so they referred me to physical therapy and other things that we can do to alleviate the back pain from sitting for 40 years, and things like that. And what can my doctor do to help me go hiking with my wife and go do things that I want to do in my daily life, to be as happy and as high quality of a life as possible. And I really think that, maybe it's the name physical medicine. Maybe people don't really understand what that means. But, hopefully that, maybe my personal example can help sort of people fully understand the complexity and the range of what you guys do. And I really do appreciate that.
Well, I think that's a perfect example of exactly the kind of role that we like to play. And I would 100% agree with you that whoever named our specialty completely flubbed it. And they also screwed it up in terms of, we're not like, cardiology, you know exactly what that person does. Our title is physiatrists, and we just avoid it because nobody knows what that means.
You got to talk to the marketing specialist from 75 years ago, which kind of leads into this next question. And Ted, you kind of already alluded to it, and you don't have to be the one that answered it. Any of the three of you can. But recently you had a big milestone with the expansion of the rehabilitation unit in Chelsea. But 75-year anniversary is pretty significant. It reaches back, obviously 75 years ago, but really to some of the things that you were mentioning before. So how and why is this so unique for PM&R?
I think we're really excited about it and proud of it because we're a relatively young specialty in the grand scheme of medicine. And 75 years means that we're pretty early on in that whole story. So we're really proud of the fact that the university has had a department of physical medicine and rehabilitation for as long as it has, and has been supportive of all of our efforts. And I think a really robust rehabilitation program means that we reach into all the areas where we can be helpful to try to really make sure that we're intervening whenever we can and whenever it's going to influence patient care in a positive way. I think having worked in a few different medical systems, there is just an appreciable difference when the therapists are really where they need to be, when the physicians are where they need to be, those patients are better cared for, and we acknowledge their long-term needs better. If you're getting taken care of by an internist, they're wonderful, warm-hearted people, just like Dr. Khatib, who's joining us. But I don't know that without the training focused on disability, that those patients get quite the same level of care. So from our standpoint, this is a celebration of the fact that the department has been a part of this medical system for an awfully long time, and all of the associated achievements. Then we can kind of reflect on all the positive changes that have happened as a result.
And I would agree completely with that, Ted. I think, having our patients having the ability to have a provider focusing on their quality of life and helping them to live their life to the fullest is a wonderful specialty. And we appreciate everything that you all do.
All right, so let's leave the world of PM&R for a minute and let's enter the world of Chelsea Hospital. So a lot of people might assume that Chelsea Hospital is just like any other hospital out there. That's not exactly the case. Can you talk a little bit about how it's quite different from hospitals such as University Hospital in Ann Arbor, what those differences are, and how those differences actually can contribute to what we can provide at U of M Health?
Sure. Chelsea Hospital is a community hospital. So it is a smaller campus than what we're used to here at the University of Michigan. It is a healing environment, beautiful building, much quieter, much easier to park, easier to navigate. So quite a bit of a difference in the experience. The grounds surrounding the hospital are beautiful, so it's wooded. I frequently see deer walking around. That's not something we see at the university. So for patients, it's a perfect setting for those who need to recover and heal from an injury or from a condition that is commonly treated at a community hospital, and still, expect the high quality of care that we provide. For providers like myself, it also provides a diversity in the practice. So I love practicing at Chelsea in addition to practicing at University of Michigan. It is a different environment. It provides options for us to where we want to practice, maybe for some closer to home, maybe just a different feel. So I really do think there is some advantages and some differences that we can take advantage of.
Yeah, if I could. So Chelsea's been my home for 2.5 years. And as you can tell, I've worked a few places, not just at Chelsea Hospital. But I will say, as Rafina has described, this is truly a very unique setting here. We're so close and so fortunate to be so close to truly a world-class institution in University of Michigan at UH. But really, the setting is so different here, and I think it lends itself very well to the discipline of physical medicine and rehabilitation. So, the culture that's been here for more than 50 years is one that I would describe in a word is almost intimate. There's a closeness of the staff that's here, a lot of collegiality with the faculty that practices here. The colleagues many of whom we actually had our service awards recently. We had a 50-year colleague. So people have dedicated their entire lives to Chelsea Hospital. And what's been kind of neat is for me to see that the definition of community is evolving. So we have cared for not only Chelsea and the surrounding communities, but Michigan is a big door that's opening up a national community. And there's a lot of excitement building on this campus here as we think about the opportunity to really bring the best of what we have and marry that together with the world-class resources, leaders that Michigan brings. And we really believe that this is actually going to be an opportunity for us to build on those 75 years that we've talked about and hopefully bring in an even greater opportunity to serve those who call upon us.
I think that's a great perspective. And I think that's one of the things that people do enjoy about working here is that there are so many folks who have tethers, not only, for their own lives, but they have family members, they've had generations that have worked or been patients here. And the community aspect of being at U of M is so important. So let's get into some of your favorite parts about this. So I want to hear from each of the three of you. When you think about the future of the Inpatient Rehabilitation Center or PM&R in general, what is your favorite aspect of it?
Well, I'm going to just sneak in first because I think that it's fair to say that, I've been working here for about 11, 12 years. And one of the biggest constraints that we've had has just been space. That means that we have to prioritize specific patients. And now that we have a bit more expanded capacity to take care of patients, we can really stretch out and think hard about how we can serve our patients best. What populations could we do better with? Who can we offer this resource to? And I'm really excited to see where that takes us. I think that there's opportunity to help patients that we don't necessarily think of as kind of patients that necessarily need that kind of help, but patients who have maybe undergone transplant or patients who have just been really sick and need a little bit more help getting stronger. I think it's incredibly positive that we're now able to think more about those patients and how we can serve them better.
I'm also, like you, Ted, excited about the great potential we have, not only to serve more patients, but also to be the best in the state and perhaps in the country. And I'm excited to see the growth because that means we're able to, again, provide this excellent service to more patients who need it.
Wow, since the two best answers were taken, I'll do my best here. But no, what I'm so excited about, it's not hyperbole to say that Michigan is a national leader in so many disciplines, but certainly in the space of physical medicine and rehab. And there are very few community hospitals that are going to be able to partner in a way that Chelsea Hospital is. So I'm excited to see patients that we've never cared for come to experience that care that we're providing here. And it's challenging our staff. There's a lot of excitement to take care of patients that are presenting with a lot more acute illness than what we have experienced up to this point in time. But I think it's really bringing together and calling out the best in all of us. So I think, with a growth mindset looking to the future, I would agree with my colleagues, the best is yet to come.
Well, you've got me fired up now, and I'm excited about the future of both PM&R and, of course, what's happening at Chelsea Hospital and this inpatient rehab unit. Thank you, all three of you, for sharing this great information and taking us inside the unit. If you want to learn even more about it, there's been a number of recent stories at Michigan Medicine Headlines. You can find those stories at mmheadlines.org. That's mmheadlines.org.
It's time for our lightning round when we ask one of our guests 4 quick-fire questions. Ted, you are in the hot seat today. Congratulations. Are you ready to go?
Let's do this.
All right. Now, of course, Halloween is around the corner. Are you all into, costumes and candy and the spookiness of the holiday? And
I
if
have
so,
kids.
well, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead with that. And I was going to ask what your favorite Halloween costume was as a kid.
Oh man, favorite Halloween costume as a kid. I actually would say I'm enjoying Halloween a heck of a lot more as a dad than I ever did as a kid. I will be going as Fear from Inside Out 2 for the family-themed Halloween party, and I will be bringing my child who will be disgust.
That is perfect. I love it. All right, so let's stick with that theme. What is your favorite Halloween candy or your favorite, candy in general?
It has to be Reese's Peanut Butter Cups.
You can't go wrong. I mean, that's
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, if anybody says candy corn,
well, they're evil, and you want to stay. That would be disgust, right? Like that would be the emotion that comes out if somebody says candy corn.
I nailed it. Exactly.
All right. Now let's turn our attention to the sporting world. The World Series is going on. Are you into baseball? And if not, what would you consider your favorite sport?
I mean, now that the Tigers are out of the playoffs, I'm having a little bit of a harder time rooting for the Yankees in particular. I'm going to go Dodgers, but that's all I got.
That's fair. But the Tigers run was amazing, and it was fun to watch. Yeah.
Unbelievable. I think that if it weren't for the way the final game played out, I think it would have been even better.
Yep.
That's fair. And no one should be rooting for the Yankees. All right. So we're deep into fall now with the leaves changing colors and unfortunately the darkness setting in a little bit earlier and lasting a little bit longer in the morning. What is your favorite season here in Michigan?
Probably spring. Days start getting a little longer, starts getting a little warmer. Everybody kind of comes out of their houses and warms up to each other again. Summer's the obvious answer, but I'm going to go spring.
I think that's fair. Everyone comes out of hibernation. It's like, what have you been up to for 4 months? And of course,
exactly.
I've been trying to stay warm.
I always just like how everybody feels when it's time to start getting outside again.
Love it. All right. Well, thank you so much, Ted, for playing along with the lightning round and sharing your insight into the inpatient rehab unit and, of course, PM&R. If you want to learn more about the unit, go to mmheadlines.org. That's mmheadlines.org.
Dan, time for you to be on the hot seat. What was your favorite Halloween costume as a kid?
I just feel like for some reason I went as like Barry Sanders like 6 straight years. I'd have my little Lions helmet on and, a number 20 jersey. And that was my uniform. I feel like looking back on it, and maybe I blame my parents for this. I could have been so creative with my wheelchair and I wasn't. Like, you see nowadays on like social media, it's like, oh, it's a shopping cart or a race car or anything. I did nothing like that. I was really boring as a kid. What about you?
The fact that you weren't a Ferrari or a Corvette like 10 years in a row is deeply
It's
disappointing.
disappointing. It is disappointing.
Or a
I'm
bulldozer.
disappointed in
You could have been
myself.
anything.
I know.
You
I
had so many
know.
options. You still can do that though, Dan. Time's not over. For me, my favorite, I had two. One as a kid was I got to dress up as Hans from Hans and Franz with the SNL skit from back in the late 80s, early 90s. And then the other one that I liked, I did in college. I was a blind referee, so I had the uniform, I wore the glasses, I had the cane, and that was always a good one. People appreciated that in college. So
I think that's funny because in your daily life now, you're a blind referee, right? Like you actually go referee games.
It's true. And it was part of it was an easy costume to put on. I did not have to buy anything for it.
All right, it's time for the weekly trivia contest. This week's question is, when does open enrollment for 2025 benefits end at Michigan Medicine? Hint, it's soon. When does open enrollment for 2025 benefits end at Michigan Medicine? If you know the answer, send it to headlines@med.umich.edu for the chance to win a prize.
And that's all we have for this week. Thank you again to our three guests for joining us today. And thanks as always to our listeners and visitors for everything you do for our patients, families, and each other. We'll see you next time.